Good morning, happy people. Welcome back to another wonderful day of history and/or possibly geography. We're going to talk about discussion boards this morning. So discussion boards are a required component of your final grade. They are not optional. In addition to creating your initial post, depending on the discussion board prompt, you are also responsible for responding to at one or two classmates, depending on how I created the rubric for that particular assignment. Let's look at an example discussion board. The first thing I would do for each discussion board is I would take the time to read the instructions. So for this example, this discussion board, your initial response requires you to have at least 300 words, and after you post the initial response, you are to read and respond to at least 2 of your classmates' posts. The replies should be at least 150 words each, and they should offer critical insights, raise further questions, and provide additional historical context. Remember to provide citations for any source you reference. You must cite at least one source for your initial post. You will not be able to see your classmates' post until you have created your initial thread. And then it goes on and it gives the students for this particular course the prompt. Okay? So, requirements already we know, even before we open up the rubric, which will always accompany a discussion board post. The rubric is basically like your little cheat sheet on what you need to include in your initial response as well as your replies in order to receive full credit. So already we know the criteria equals at least 300 words for my initial post, at least 150 words, for the responses to my two classmates for this particular post. Again, when you are responding to your classmates, it is not enough to say, Student X, I really enjoyed reading your post. It was great. I like how you said this. No, it needs to add historical relevancy. It needs to add historical context or geographical, if you're taking the geography class, context. It cannot just say good job, because if you just say good job, it's not going to give you the 150 word minimum response, nor you'll see on the rubric in a few minutes, nor is it going to get you points for adding to the discussion. So the rubric, again, rubric is like a little guide that details the criteria associated with receiving full points. The rubric will always be posted. You'll go over to the 3 vertical dots on the right-hand side of the page. Show rubric. So your rubric, this discussion board, it says it's worth 50 points. So this one, the rubric will not always be the same, but it will always be located in that spot with those 3 little dots. This rubric, the initial post will earn you 18 points if you do it all correctly. So key components of the discussion prompt are answered in the thread. The thread is clear, logical, major points are stated clearly, and the major points are supported by good examples or thoughtful analysis. Names, movements, historical content, or geographical content that's pertinent to the question are given, and it has at least one scholarly citation. Anything less than this will earn you partial points. From there, you get points for responding to your classmates. So each reply, because in this case, the student had to respond to at least 2 classmates. So each reply made a meaningful point. You didn't just say, great job, keep up the good work. I enjoyed reading it. No, you moved beyond that and added some additional thoughts that are designed to facilitate discussion, because that's what a discussion board is. We are trying to facilitate discussion, and we are trying to create this sense of community despite us being in an online class. And that only happens when we are actively engaged with one another. So you can add additional thoughts on the thread. You can add an explanation of why you agree or disagree with the student that you are replying to their initial post. Just make sure that it's coherent, it's grammatically correct, and it's rooted in relevancy and fact. Let's say you do a really great job with your initial post and you respond to only one classmate. You are not going to be eligible for full points because the assignment for this particular discussion board was the response to 2 classmates. From there, you have a grammar and a spelling section. So spelling, grammar are correct, sentences are complete, clear, and concise. Paragraphs are appropriately varied in sentence structure. By the way, AI does not do a great job of varying sentence structure. And AI writes stuff weird, so don't use it. And I can tell. And if I suspect it's AI, I'm going to give you a 0 for your discussion board. Don't use it. You have a wealth of information available to you. You have my lecture notes, as well as you have pre-recorded lecture. Well, when I say lecture notes, I'm talking about pre-recorded lecture. And you have your textbook. I don't mind you using other historical sources, but I do not want you using AI. That constitutes academic dishonesty, and it will be penalized. And the person is going to receive full credit because they are citing their references correctly. Let's talk about citing references. So as it relates to citing references, you may use this website, owlpurdue.edu. It's listed under your student resources, and it's going to give you the cheat code on how to cite references. So it gives the option of APA, MLA, Chicago, or Turabian. Technically, Turabian is the citation that historians use, and this is a history class, but I don't mind if you use APA, MLA, use whatever you are familiar with, just make sure that you are using it correctly. For the most part, many of you are going to use the citations for books, and you might use citations for electronic sources like websites. There is a particular format. So it might say for a book, let's say I wrote the book, Allen, comma, S period, N period, year of publication 2024. Title of the work would be How to Properly Cite References for a Discussion Board Post. Publisher name, Allen Publishing. DOI, it's unlikely that you're going to have a DOI. And if it's a book, if it's a printed book, you don't have to cite the DOI. The DOI is only if it's a book that was never released in print. It was only released online. Okay? There's a proper way. You're losing unnecessary points, or you will lose unnecessary points if you fail to properly cite your sources. So, please do it correctly. And then you get points for meeting the initial thread word count, minimum of 300 words met. You get points for replying to, in this case, at least 2 of your classmates with the minimum word count of 150 words per reply. Cool? All right, so this has been a brief tutorial on how to access the discussion board, how to access the rubric associated with the discussion board, and to make sure that you are actively engaged in this course by participating in these required discussion boards. Again, they are not optional. They are a component of your final grade. All right, lovies, this is the conclusion of this discussion on discussion boards. I'll see you soon again. Bye.